Welcome, welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And today I am especially excited because I have one of my friends slash clients slash colleagues slash an amazing person. So someone I'm a big fan of hers. So she's finally accepted to be our guest. So welcome, Lorelai.
Thank you very much. And yes, I do go by Lorelai now that I've actually found documentation that my name was spelled that way. It was supposed to be spelled that way, but government rules. Anyway,
So
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I always call Lorelai for some reason. I always have from the beginning. Please just stuck to the name. But Lorelai, everyone's heard your intro. They've heard how amazing you are. But please tell everybody in your own words what it is that you do.
Well, I have the pleasure of helping and guiding clients, entrepreneurs, and getting their finances in order, eliminating their debt, and setting up their nest egg for future retirement and anything else they want to do. How is exciting as that?
Oh, that's really
stress
exciting.
Away from them.
That's really, really exciting. So I know you've been in the financial markets for such a long time. You're a veteran in this. Talk us through, Laura, like how did you start? And especially you started at a time when women did not go into the financial markets at all. So it was a time where the financial advisors and all of those were primarily male dominated professions. So talk us through what made you go into this profession and how did it all start for you?
Well, it started many, many decades ago. I was born in the tail end of the baby boomer generation. And I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And some people might not even understand what that means. It just means I was not born into a wealthy family by any means. In fact, I'm one of the oldest of 12 children.
Wow.
And there was very few extras in life. In fact, there was a lot of things that was scraping by for our parents. And in the books that I've written recently, I tell a little bit about it, but actually we were in a 4-room house while there was 8 children and 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a dining room, a kitchen living room area. That was it. So we'll let people fill in the blanks themselves. There wasn't a lot by any stretch of the imagination. And I grew up knowing once you get a certain age and you go to school, we knew we were poor. And the way our parents survived, we call it the pioneer life, was that they had a hobby farm. And that helped out considerably with food. It's not that they didn't work hard, but you have to remember, you're quite a bit younger. There wasn't such a thing as credit cards and things around at that time. You paid as you went. And my mom's parents died very young. My father's parents, they had a pump inside the house. So technically they had running water in the house. We didn't. But they didn't have the amenities either. It was very much a very pioneer life. And I always felt that and was told I had to work very hard for anything I wanted. And I thought, oh man, I want to get out of this. I don't want to grow up the rest of my life poor. So I always wanted to learn more about business. And in fact, even when I was in high school, if you talk about a keener, I worked at the school cafeteria at noon and I got free lunch for that. I worked in the evenings, most evenings, at the local grocery store, either in the bakery or on the till. And I sold, if you can imagine the companies allowing this, I was the youngest female representative for a cosmetic company. At age 15, I started wearing skincare and they let me join. And I did that all throughout high school. In fact, I did that for 25 years.
Wow.
I had a large group under me at one time, but I never made any amount of money because Laura Lee would give it all away. for some silly reason. And I didn't understand why I didn't make any money, even though I did a lot of sales. I recruited. I mean, I had over 100 people underneath me at one
Wow.
point, but I really had no money. I spent any money I got, I spent it. And I know you understand what
Yeah.
was going on there. I didn't.
Mm.
Now, I will say that for us, we were doing okay late in the later years. But when my husband and I got together, everything we owned fit into a half-ton truck and it was only half full. So we started out with nothing.
Mm.
Our clothes and table and chairs that was given to us for a wedding present. Um, anyway, a lot of things. And I guess there's a tear just ran down, but that's allergies. It's not tears of sadness. Anyway, as I went along, I was introduced. I had always studied doing income tax and studied different things. And a few things went along the way, and I had the opportunity to get into investments. And I thought, oh, finally, I can get a chance at 38 or 39 years of age to really get a chance to understand
Mm.
how to make some better money, how to make some better business decisions. I just did income tax, where we put some money for our RSPs put away. And later on, I found out that we really did some really great things for ourselves without very little knowledge. But when I got into the investment industry, it was amazing to me of all of a sudden how much easier it was for me because I didn't have to ask clients for money.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting? That
Yeah.
I was like, because the fund companies and the insurance companies paid me.
Mm.
Unless a business paid me to go and teach clients, teach them, get them ready for retirement. And
Mm.
some companies, some businesses did do that, which was quite interesting. And I'll back up just a little bit if you want to ask me something before I get into the investment part.
And so I'm just thinking, when you did go into that sort of environment, which was, I know this is going back quite a number of years, so it was heavily male dominated. How did you work on your mindset? How did you approach the idea? And I know for a fact that you're coming at the other end of baby boomers, so this chauvinistic mindset around what's possible for women and what they should not be doing, was still quite prevalent. So how did you deal with that chauvinistic attitude towards you? Like, why are you doing here? I'm sure there were plenty of colleagues who thought this is no place.
Colleagues,
Yeah.
family thought, oh, she must be doing real estate. And nothing wrong with real estate. I wasn't smart enough to get into that. But they thought I had to be doing real estate because, God forbid, you're not smart enough to do that. You didn't go to college. You don't have a master's in math.
Mm.
Anyway, many things. When I would go to a meeting, and if say there was 100 people in the room, we were lucky if there was 5 women. And I
Mm.
say if. So yes, very male dominated. I was blessed to be around some people that were open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting. I think because I had 7 brothers, that toughened me up quite a bit.
Okay. So you had to approach men who are, being in that dominant environment. And I'm just curious to work out because, when I look upon you, you are very soft and very feminine. When we think of in the 80s, women going in and being in these environments, they were very masculine and in your face and alpha females and really go kind of, like almost like the female version of the men, right? And
Yeah.
they had taken on their masculine energy rather than, going back into feminine energy. Talk me through, how did you remain so feminine? And that's a
With doing
great
that,
thing, by the
I
way.
just, yeah. Oh, yes. And I realize it more so now. I didn't then, but it
Mm.
was interesting. Most of my clients were male.
Mm.
When I got into the industry, they said, Lorley, who do you think you're going to help? And I said, well, I don't think the men are going to listen to me, but so it'll probably be women. And they told me, give or take 5 years.
Okay.
Within 2 years, 90% of my clients were male and they were at least 20 to 30 years older than me.
Mm.
It was really, nobody believed it at first until they looked at the stats. But one of my clients, and part of it, I showed them that I did what I suggested they do.
Right.
And I really pride myself in not talking down to people. I want to show them what's possible for them by just doing a few tweaks. If I could take the average person and make them financially independent, that was my goal. It depending on what they made or their mindset themselves, how much information they took from me. But I never suggested anybody to do anything that I wasn't prepared to do myself. And I showed them. I said, this is me. We're having an interview. You're interviewing me as much as I'm interviewing you. Yes, I have these credentials. And if you think you want to go the next step, that you want to work with me, I will show you what I've done. And most of them, they all knew what we made in the household. They might not have known my income, but they knew where my husband worked. You know, he worked at the power plant. Everybody knew per hour what the different people made. So they wanted to know how you could have money put away and still live the lifestyle that we were doing. Because I have to admit, and I've admitted to you before, that I am a spender and I like to give things away. And I had to automate stuff for myself so that it automatically got done, or else that money would just float on for another bill. Something else would come along to catch my eye.
Yeah.
So I learned to prioritize certain goals that I had, because when I got into investments, I did not know I was getting into self-development. Thank heavens I did. I didn't know who Bob Proctor was, let alone all these other giants that were out there. Like, I would go to meetings and I just eager to learn. And so I would go to these conferences and they always had a motivational speaker there. And I thought, man, what a great job. You're encouraging people, you're inspiring people to want to do better for themselves. I thought, wow, how do you get that gig? That's pretty cool.
I mean, that sounds amazing. And I'm just thinking about it then, and I want to go back to this idea. I mean, I think you underestimate what you achieved. And this is why I keep bringing this to your attention. And by the way, I can do this because I do know you personally.
Yeah.
I do know you a lot better than some of my guests. And I want you to understand and appreciate, and then see if you can give me an answer to this. You know, here's a woman in her 20s, right?
Not then.
Oh, in 20,
not then.
In 30s.
I was like 38, 39.
Okay.
When I went back to school.
Okay, so here's a woman in her 30s, okay? Late 30s, early 40s. She's shoulder to shoulder with with men in a male-dominated profession. Most of our clients are actually men. Doesn't matter how and what is, because of the level of service to provide, the referral system that works. I understand that. I just want to understand, how does a woman remain in her feminine energy, does not go and copy and embody the masculine energy of the men in the department, because that's the way to be, and remains true to herself and provides an honest service, and still remains happy and cheerful and optimistic. These are qualities which you take for granted in yourself, yet in that time frame, so this is going a few years ago now, how does that happen? How does a woman who allow herself to be herself, to be a woman, and accept that she's a woman, and remains in a feminine energy and gets results which are equal to, if not better than, a male counterpart? That's the mindset I'm after. When they're doing nowadays, I'm not denying that there's still a gender gap and there's issues to be done, but it's a lot better now. 2022 is a lot different to to the 90s and the 2000s and whatever have you, and going back 80s is even worse. But in the 90s and 2000s, it was a different market. And I remember, because I was in the legal department, in the legal field in the 2000s, and even then, there was also females coming, but because I was in banking finance, that was heavily male dominated. This is why I can relate to you.
Yeah.
And here's my question to you. How did you work on your mindset? How did you think, you know what, I'm equal to that man. I can do, obviously after a couple of years, your results spoke for themselves. But when you were first starting out, how did you work on your mindset? How do you instill the self-belief that I can do this just as well as that man can?
Well, it was interesting. Some people felt I bit off more than I could chew. That's a statement here.
Yeah.
And I just looked at it that I wanted to do better for myself and my friends and anybody that I took on. And if I could do that honorably and act, efficiently and, do the best for them, then I could hold my head high. Because let me tell you, yourself, there's more con artists, I say there's more trouble in three-piece suits than anywhere else at times.
Yes.
And so I always knew I could hold my head high because I never looked to see what I would get paid by any one company when I was presenting a proposal to somebody. In fact, I got paid double from some companies than I even suspected I would. And I went, something's wrong with my paycheck here. They're gonna want some money back. And they were like, no, Lorley, that's your bonus. And I'm like, really? And they thought I picked that company because I got paid this amount, which I never ever did. And to this day, I still do not look, because I wanted to know in my heart that I was doing what was best for the client, because that's how I wanted to be treated. And I surrounded myself by people that were good to me. And in some ways I was hidden because I've had a home office almost the whole time. I could go into other offices, but the atmosphere wasn't there. It wasn't conducive. So I really surrounded myself with people that I felt had the same values as me, because there was a ton of great people in the industry. But had I worked in the environment you did, you would have been bombarded by that masculine energy.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I remember one of our meetings we had one time, and it came down to, it was only my first year in business. I had 2 months. I started October 28th. So then come the next year, we're having this meeting, and I guess we got our T4 slips or something, like it was a little over a year past. And we got our T4 slips. And my boss told some of the males, what I earned. And I could have wrung his neck. Now, it wasn't a huge amount, but this one guy, a couple of them said something to me. And I thought, I don't know what they're getting at. Like, because they would say some snide remarks. Anyway, one of them came up to me, and I thought of him as a nice person. And he said, I hear what you made, but that can't be true. And I said, listen, I don't need your attitude. I'm new in this industry. You've got years in this industry on me. I don't need to hear the complaints. I'm doing the best I can. I'm not the only mutual fund. I'm doing life insurance and SAG funds in addition. So I'm taking this time to really educate myself. And I was working on my certified financial planning degree. I said, I don't need this. I thought you were my friend. And he goes, hold her. He said, I was just going to congratulate you. Well, then I felt really stupid. But I thought he was making fun of my income, because it wasn't the income that they had told me. If I did this, this, and this, I would make this amount of money. Well, I chose not to use certain funds that paid more because I didn't like them. I didn't like their rules and things along that line. But it was kind of funny. I was like, okay, next time I better ask what's going on before I
jump to conclusions.
Yeah, I just got right defensive. I said, like, I don't need this baloney.
So what I'm hearing from you is you put your head down and you focused on providing high quality service, and you weren't concerned about your commissions. You weren't concerned about the amount. You were concerned about how can I provide the best level of service for this client in front of me, and the rewards just took care of themselves. And this is
that's how I looked at it.
And then when you were being in that way, you were able to be true to yourself, your identity, and provide an honest and high level quality of service for your clients. And this is how you ended up building a very strong practice. This is what I'm hearing, which is amazing, because when you focus on just providing a service, when you focus on how can I help my clients, what can I do for you, and do it from an honest place, from an integral place, from a place where I just want to help, the rewards and the universe lines up to support you in ways you cannot even imagine. And this seems to be exactly what happened to you, right?
Yeah. If I can remember at first, now I turned the fan off, and down here it's warm, so I look a little flushed, but I didn't want the noise to interrupt. But I can remember at first, like, the office gave us all, write down 3 things that you want to achieve, and took the sheets away from us, and they brought them back to us 6 months later. And I mean, this was my first real goal setting. And it wasn't what I would tell people to do nowadays. I would be much more detailed on it. But we all wrote 3 things down, and it was very interesting. And you were to think not just little things that you wanted. They were pretty big things for me, things that I never thought would, they were big dreams for me. Anyway, most of us, when we got them back, it was interesting that most of us, we accomplished 2, if not 3 of the things that were on the list.
How amazing is that?
Isn't that interesting? They had us write them down, and some of us talked a little bit about it later. One of them, I certainly didn't talk to anybody in the group, because it was to be able to buy a cottage somewhere. Well, I didn't even have any money to put down as a down payment, I didn't believe. Let alone what you would need to buy into a cottage. And my husband was like, I thought we were getting ready to set up so that he could retire at age 55. I thought that was our plan, because that's what it was, part of it at first, that he could get to retire early and I could work on as long as I wanted to. And all of a sudden, with the time and interest rates adding up, it was just amazing. We looked at one another and started to look and say, you know what? Yeah, you can retire earlier if you want, but guess what? Lorley's going to have a little bit of a pension here. And a few more years later, he was like, well, I think I'm going to stay a couple more years. And I was like, damn, I'm going to have quite the nest egg for myself. He had a pension and I didn't. And let me tell you, one of my main goals, especially working with the women more so than the men, because most of the men that I worked with had a pension, was to take the stress away from them, clean up the debt, and have some money so that they had choices. Because let me tell you, nobody in my life, until I got to hear Bob Proctor, ever say, what would you love? Like, they don't ask women that, let alone, most people are never asked that, except for at Christmas time. We could ask Santa for one thing. That's the only time I ever remember that.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Okay, so on that note, we're going to wrap up now, and we'll continue on this conversation because it's so fascinating with you in Money Talkies. But for now, Laura, tell us, how can we connect with you? Where can we find you on the internet?
Well, I'm new to social media, but I'm working on that. And I have a website, plain as can be, my name. I say that, my name is lauraleekenny.com. I have an email address. It's just info@lauraleekenny.com. And that's the basic way to start. And anybody that reaches out to me, I like to send them, and this I've learned in the past few years, I do a meditation recording for them to ask them to open up their minds and be open to receiving abundance. Because let me tell you, when this little girl couldn't accept a compliment from somebody, you knew I was not in a receiving mode. So I'd like to share that with any of your guests if they look for it. They go on my website. I've got a little tab that says ask for the gold. It could say, I might change it to ask for the money, but if they just fill that in, their name and their email, it'll pop back and they'll get a recording to just asking for the money.
Wonderful, fantastic. So if you are listening to us on the podcast, the links that Laura has just mentioned will be in the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then down below in the description section, once again, we will have her links for you. Check her out. She is one kick-ass lady, and connect with her about helping you with your finances. But on that note, thank you so much, Laura. You've been an absolutely amazing guest. We have to have you back on Money Talkies, but today, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone, and a better tomorrow.
And thank you for listening to me and Lorelei today. I will be back with another amazing guest on another Friday feature, finding out how they changed their life by changing their mindset. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.